What's up everybody? Justin at S&K Greenhouse, and today I'm giving you 7 tips to boost the production of your cucumber plants. Let's jump in. Each tip I give you in this video is very important, but the last one is absolutely crucial and probably the most important one, so make sure to watch all the way through. Tip number 1 is to apply mulch. Now this seems pretty insignificant, but it's pretty important because cucumbers are pretty much a fair weather plant. They don't like it too cold, they don't like it too hot, so we're here in the middle of June now. It's starting to heat up, and we don't want the sun to bake the soil against the roots here. Mulch will add a layer of protection and kind of regulate the heat stress that cucumbers go through in the summertime. Mulch also is a very, very good way to hold in moisture so your cucumbers don't dry out. And third, mulch is going to help suppress those weeds so they're not competing with your cucumbers. Now what am I applying right here? Well, this is a shredded weed-free mulch from Healthy Straw. Pretty fond of it actually because, well, it's so easy to put out. Again, it's shredded, so it just kind of naturally is easy to use. But you don't have to use shredded straw. I might have said mulch, but I meant straw. You can use shredded hardwood. You can use pine bark nuggets. You can use leaf mold if you just want to get something that's readily available in your yard. But some type of covering to protect those roots. Tip number 2 is to plant cucumbers that are parthenocarpic. Now I know that's a crazy word, but all that means is they're self-pollinating, or they don't rely on bees and insects to actually pollinate them. Now I really try to drive the bees to my garden because so many plants do rely on pollinators, and that's why I plant things like these beautiful sunflowers, because, well, not only are they aesthetic, but they actually have a purpose. Come right here, look, there's actually a bee flying into this flower. Check him out. Now he is on one of my squash, which is part of the cucurbit family, which is part of the same family as cucumbers. And this is a great point because he is actually on a male flower, and you know it's a male flower because it's coming out of the stem. Oh, actually he's on a female flower. Okay, we know it's a female flower because he was crawling around on this baby squash and he just pollinated it. Wow, we got to see that in action. This is a female flower. This is a male flower that's not open. We know this is a male flower because it's coming out of the stem. For this little baby squash to get pollinated, he must go into this male flower and then go into the female flower. And that will pollinate it and help this grow. Now, if you ever see baby squash, zucchini, or cucumbers just rot and fall right off, well, that's because it didn't get pollinated. Now, this drives my point home. You don't have to worry about any of this if you plant cucumbers that are parthenocarpic, like the pickle bushel cucumbers I have growing in this bed. Now, another advantage of growing parthenocarpic cucumbers is that you can grow them in enclosed areas like a greenhouse, and that's why they're able to produce and not have any bees or insects in there. Tip number 3 is to make sure your cucumbers are getting consistent watering. Now I'm old school, I'm still pulling the hose. I don't have drip irrigation, although drip irrigation is great. But today I'm going to show you how I water with a hose because it's pretty crucial. Here we are in the early morning. I like to water in the mornings, or if I can't do it in the morning, I like to do it late in the afternoon. That way that water don't get just evaporated by the hot sun. But you want to, in these beds, I'm actually watering about every single day because my soil is very fast draining. If I was growing in the ground, I might not water every day. But I know my beds, and these cucumbers need it about every single day. Now I'm watering down here at the base and not from overhead. That can cause disease because when these leaves get wet, it just ignites those fungus spores, and that's why sometimes you see your cucumbers not last as long as they should. So each morning, I pretty much give my cucumbers a good soak, again, down here at the base. And look at that mulch, it's just holding in all the water. It'll hold it out throughout the day. If you'll know your cucumbers aren't getting enough water if they start to taste bitter, or you know when you pull those cucumbers and they're a little bit misshapen, that's also usually a lack of water. Tip number 4 is to plant your cucumbers in succession. Now all that means is you're going to plant more cucumbers behind your mature ones, because although we wish we could get our cucumbers to last all through the summer, into fall, you know, like an indeterminate tomato, we wish we could just keep growing and growing it. But the truth is, squash, zucchini, cucumbers, they all have a pretty short life cycle. And no matter what you do, how good of care you take care of them, they're not going to last indefinitely through the whole growing season. So what I like to do, these seeds are coated so you can see them. Thought it'd be good for the demonstration here. All I have is a 6-cell pack with some potting soil in it. And I'm just going to put, these have a really good germination rate, so I'm just going to put 1 per cell. And then I'm going to push them down and water them in. And I will have new baby cucumbers to plant behind these in just a couple weeks. Now I'm going to show you a container I did just about a week or 10 days ago. Look at that. That has already came up just from about a week ago. And you can see these cucumber plants have 2 leaves on them. Typically, when a cucumber plant has 3 leaves on them, this will be producing another leaf soon. That means they're pretty much ready to transplant. Tip number 5 is to make sure your cucumber plants have something to climb on, like this cattle panel, or you can use a tomato cage, or you can use a wooden tomato stake, just something to get them off of the ground, because when they're on the ground, well, they tend to not get a lot of air circulation, and that lack of air circulation is going to cause disease. When you get them up off of the ground, air can move in between these leaves, and you're going to have less diseases like blight. Now it also kind of makes everything nice and neat and allows you to plant your cucumbers close together so you can grow more cucumbers in your space. You see, I got these planted just about 8 inches apart. About every 8 inches I have a cucumber plant through here, so I've got like over a dozen cucumbers in this little 12-foot section. And I also want to mention that cucumbers have tendrils, and this is a tendril. You want to zoom in on that. And these little tendrils will naturally latch on to whatever you've got for it to climb on. This tendril here naturally just latched onto the cattle panel. I didn't have to twist it on there or tie it on there. And as long as you give your cucumber plants a nice start, you know, give them a general sense of direction of where you want them to climb, they'll pretty much latch on and take care of themselves. Tip number 6 is to make sure you're feeding your cucumbers, especially during the blooming stage. Now in the beginning, they're going to like a lot of nitrogen to get those leaves going and growing, but when they're starting to bloom, they need more potassium and phosphorus. And I've got 2 good examples of a fertilizer product that will provide that. We have Tomato Tone by Espoma and Garden Tone by Espoma. And if you look at the breakdown on this Garden Tone, you'll see the 3 main numbers. We've got a 3-4-4, that's nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, and you see those last 2 numbers are a little higher than the nitrogen count. That's going to be perfect for the cucumbers. On this Tomato Tone, even though it's Tomato Tone, you can use it on other vegetables. This is going to have more nutrients like calcium in it, but we got nitrogen 3, phosphorus, and then potassium a 4 and a 6. So it's got plenty of potassium. That's going to work out really good for these cucumbers. They are in that stage right now where they probably need a lot of food, especially if you're going to be planting them in succession. You're going to want to add some food, because that soil, even if assuming you planted it in nice rich compost, it is going to get depleted of nutrients over time. This is a granular fertilizer, and I just like to sprinkle it out around the base of my plants here. No, I'm not going to measure it out. I'm probably going to get roasted in the comments, but I've used this so much, I kind of know what they're going to need. Plus, I don't worry about it burning because, well, this is an organic fertilizer. Now, if you're the type that needs to have the exact measurement, it's on the bag, so you can kind of measure it out. Tip number 7, and I told you it was the most important tip, and it really is, to harvest your cucumbers. Now, I know you're like, what? Of course I'm going to harvest them. That's why I grew them. But if you leave a cucumber on too long, kind of like I did this one, see how this cucumber is, this is a pickling cucumber, and it is large. You see how it's starting to turn yellow? Well, this one was left on there a little bit too long. You want to pick your cucumbers when they're pickling, when they're about that size. The reason this one didn't get picked, and this happens so many times, is because cucumbers produce a pretty dense vegetation, and sometimes they'll be hiding behind the leaves, and you just miss seeing them. But what this actually does is it signals to the plant that it's at the end of its life cycle. It's kind of done its part. In Mother Nature, it thinks it's, you know, kind of going to be reproducing, and it's left its basically seed to go on to the next generation of cucumber plants.
What are you talking about?
I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but let's just trust me on this. You need to pick your cucumbers or your plant is going to die. Well, folks, there you go. There are my 7 tips to boost your cucumber production. Follow these and you'll have plenty of cucumbers this summer for those salads and for those sandwiches. If you want to see more content like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button and notification bell. That way you get notified. And until next time, become a plant person.